such a large investor, it would take you a long time to sell off buildings individually. And so when you do an IPO in Illinois, you do an IPO in Brixmor, there's a send a signal to the marketplace, this is the top of the market.
No is the short answer. We remain pretty constructive on real estate globally. I point to a few things. First, year to date, we've invested twice as much capital as we've distributed back to our investors. Second point I'd make is in many of these IPOs, I'm not going to talk about specifics, but we're not selling any stock at the time of the IPO. It's likely to begin a monetization process that will take a number of years, but not at the time of the IPO. The third thing I'd say is you have to think about the nature of our funds. Going back to your opportunistic comment, we run closed-end funds. So we have to return the capital to our investors at some point. We can't hold it forever. And we have this buy it, fix it, sell it model. And so, you know, if you look at the lodging space, for instance, there's a lot of pressure on extended stay, La Quinta, Hilton, and yet, this year, over the last year, we've bought $5 billion of other hotels. Motel 6, Apple Reed 6, a bunch of hotels in Europe. So oftentimes it's the life cycle of an investment that dictates what we're doing, as opposed to, hey, I should draw some conclusion that Blackstone's saying this is the moment I've got to get out.
But that begs the question, do you have a GM or an AIG where somebody says, okay, so the good news is they're not selling a lot. The bad news is we know they need liquidity and there'll be an overhang. And why do I buy an IPO when I know over the next 3 or 4 years there's going to be constant selling and depressing the price of the stock? I'm not saying that's an actuality, but that's sort of a thought in the marketplace.
So that is a common question from investors. I turn it around a little bit, which is when we take a company public and own a large stake, as a public shareholder, do people believe we're going to be focused on creating value? Are we going to wake up every day driving that CEO to do the best they can to manage expenses and drive revenues and create value? Are we going to be, if that management team doesn't do a good job, will we be focused on that and make changes if necessary? If a strategic opportunity comes along, will we take advantage of it? People pay a fair amount of money to invest alongside us. In public offerings, you get the opportunity. Yes, I would acknowledge over time we will be sellers. But if the company performs well, that's ultimately what will be the determinant of value of the company. And I think we're very much aligned with other shareholders who invest in these businesses. Frankly, I'd much rather have a large shareholder who knows an industry, who's highly motivated, as opposed to a disparate group of owners without necessarily a super focused management team. So we see it as a net positive. I know others don't.